June 22nd, 2025, I uploaded a video on F-Zero X, where I tried to beat every cup on the hardest difficulty with one of the worst machines. That machine is Black Bull, and it's piloted by Black Shadow. Because of Black Bull's low boost strength and heavy weight, it's one of the slowest machines in the entire game. After the challenge was uploaded, there was an immediate demand for me to return to the F-Zero franchise to play the sequel, and not just in the comments section for that video, but in almost every video I've made since then. F-Zero GX was released for the GameCube in 2003, and takes nearly everything from X and cranks it to the max with its physics, lightning speeds, new tracks, huge character roster, and tons of customization options to build and create your own machine. GX is still beloved by fans today, and for whatever reason, Nintendo just won't bother making a proper follow-up to it. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Like in X, GX's cast of characters pilot machines that have a classification of stats based on body, boost, grip, and weight. The stats are represented by letters, with E being the lowest rate and A being the best. But the rating system isn't quite as accurate as they show in-game. Multiple people have noticed that the machine stats are actually different from their rating. For example, Fat Shark, which is considered to be the best machine, has stats showing an above-average speed boost and terrible grip. On the track, however, it handles decently and its boost is insanely good. So if we can't trust what these stats say, then how could we know for sure what the worst machine in the game is? Well, some would say that it all comes down to opinion, and there seems to be a lot of conflicting opinions on which machine is the worst and why. But there's one that's constantly brought up in the worst machine in the game debate, and that is Silver Rat, piloted by Daigoro. Daigoro is Samurai Goro's son. He's 10 years old and somehow allowed to race against full-grown adults with mortgages. His machine, Silver Rat, has some lackluster stats and has consistently been noted as one of the worst machines available. This is due to it having some of the lowest top speed in the game, along with a weak body and being super lightweight, making it a prime target for a quick kill. Hard to believe all that when its stats spell out such a sweet and wholesome message. Now, I'm no expert here, but based upon the updated stats for Silver Rat, it seems to have a lot going against it. So let's put it to the test and see if you can beat every cup in F-Zero GX only using Silver Rat. For this challenge, I'll be attempting to complete all cups on the Master difficulty. I've also set up some other rules as well to make things as fair as possible. I won't be using any game-breaking strats to help me along the way. That means no snaking, no tricks, glitches, none of that. I want to see if Silver Rat is capable as it is without any special assistance. Really, the big thing to call out here is snaking, and if you're unfamiliar with that, don't worry, I am too. But snaking is a trick that gives you a massive amount of speed. Apparently, snaking is hard with Silver Rat anyway, but I figured it was worth mentioning. Also, as a full disclosure, while I have played F-Zero X, I have not played GX at any point before this challenge. So if you see me performing poorly, just know that it's because I suck and don't usually seek out tutorials, simply for the love of the rage bait. With that said, you might be wondering how I have Silver Rat since it's unlocked by beating Mission 6 in Story Mode on Very Hard. To answer that, I let someone else put in the work for me, and was berated for doing so. Also, as a side note, some footage may appear a little blurry or pixelated. During this run, I was having some internet issues, and some footage won't appear in the best quality. That won't be a case for a majority of the video, but sorry about that in advance. Now, this is usually the spot where I explain how the game is played for those who may be unfamiliar. I can only imagine that most of you who clicked on this video have a good idea of what F-Zero is about, so I'll keep this section brief so we can get to the good stuff. Before the start of a race, you can select how you want your machine to operate. More acceleration gives you that at the cost of max speed, and max speed will give you a higher top speed at the cost of acceleration. While racing, you can attack others by sliding into them or with the spin attack. If you destroy a machine, you get a skull, and for every 5, you gain an extra continue. Destroying a machine knocks them out for the remainder of the race, and they won't earn any points at the end. If you end up being the one to fall, you have to use a continue to reset and try again. Your boost and health act as one, and it can be replenished by going through a pit area or after you take someone else out. The ability to boost activates after the first lap. You get points at the end of every race, which ranges from 0 to 100. Whomever has the most points at the end of the first race will show up as your rival. This basically puts a big target on their back for you, so you know to try and get rid of them. Per usual, whoever has the most points at the end of the cup is the winner, and I can only hope that that'll be me as I enter the Ruby Cup. The first track is none other than Mute City. Boy, do I remember not being able to place decently here until I got an OEM N64 controller. Good times. I wasn't too sure at the time of where to place my machine settings, so I chose chose to go a little more towards max speed without going all the way to the right. Since it was my very first race, I was getting used to the controls, instead of practicing beforehand, and ended up in an unsurprising spot in 28th place. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. I mean, I knew that Silver Rat wasn't that good, but even with my limited F-Zero knowledge, I wasn't expecting to have done that terribly. So I reset, this time with my settings fully in on max speed, and proceeded to do worse than I did on my first try. I mean, the run was far from perfect, but I was boosting at almost every chance I got, and I was still miles away from even 28th place. To save myself from more suffering, I wised up and took to the practice mode to properly get my bearings straight and learn how to operate this rodent. Before long, I was turning more with the L and R buttons to maintain speed, and perform the spin attack to hopefully take out other machines. At the time, I thought it was weird that there was no side attack like an F-Zero X, but we'll be addressing my ignorance on that later on. Something else that was mentioned to me was that you have to calibrate your stick before you play. Apparently, the default calibration is terrible, so I went in and took care of that. What the f? I can't imagine that's good compared to an OEM GameCube controller. But oh well, back to the Ruby Cup I go. It should come as no surprise that even with practice and obtaining some basic skills, I was still not quite ready for Master. I used a retry, paying no attention to that little counter in the corner. Improvements were made after I reset, and I turned 28th place into a cool 21st. Casino Palace is the next race, and it's a big oval with lots of dash zones. I opted to go full acceleration this time to see if it made any differences. And well, for a moment, there were some signs that I might do okay, but I fell behind again shortly after. That was okay though. This run was more of a test to see what I was getting into. That was even worse. They had me in the beginning. Now we got Sand Ocean, along with a small tweak in my machine settings to get some extra speed. Since I placed so low, I was given a better starting position and managed to barely keep my head above water away from 20th place and below. I couldn't keep that up for long though, and my first taste of disaster would strike in the second lap. Wow. You look like you eat sand. Wow, hold on. That's... what? Did that happen in the last game? There's no way they do that to you. Yeah, so you remember that little counter in the corner I mentioned? That is your retry counter. The amount you start with varies by difficulty, and in Master, they only give you one, and I wasted it on the very first race. With that now in mind, I was back in Sand Ocean again with a retry in tow, just in case something bad happened. Got him for it. No, get in there! Wow, I really don't have a whole lot to say about that one. I'm just happy that I get to keep my retry while I enter Lightning for the first time. Not too long into the first lap, I got a kill with the Spin of Destiny, but the other racers caught on to my dastardly deed and stayed far away from me for the majority of the race. I did end up moving up to 29th place in the overall standings, a small baby step closer to the podium. The very end of this cup is Aeropolis. Aeropolis? Comment section, you know what to do. This track was the most intense out of the 5, adding in sharp turns and hazards to the mix. It's a good thing that Silver Rat has decent handling, so getting around these is no sweat. I just wonder how it handles in the air. Oh boy. Oh yeah, I forgot about the flight in this game. I could have avoided that by either turning more into the track or boosting earlier so I could have landed where I was originally aiming. But sometimes in F-Zero, things just happen so fast and my little brain can hardly keep up. I fixed this mistake on my final try and almost got destroyed while nearing the finish line. Oh no. But I made my way all the way to the end, finishing in 27th and landing myself a cozy spot in dead last. Yikes. At least you can only improve when you're at the very bottom. After that loss, I knew that this challenge wasn't going to be won by brute forcing my way through the Master difficulty. If I wanted to stand a chance, I needed to enter a training arc. And so that's what I did over the next day and a half, learning and growing more and more as Silver Rat and I raced with the best of them. Top 10? Okay. It only took, what, hour and a half? Oh, and there I go. No, we're f***ed, man. Oh, no! Well, As you can see, it was a steep uphill battle, but moving past all the crashes and grief, I was placing better in every race. This obviously came naturally since I was playing each track more and more, but experimenting with different machine settings helped out a lot too. I moved around a bit, first going more towards acceleration, and then to max speed. I found that I perform my best by not going full max speed, and making some tiny room for acceleration. But even with these changes making a difference, it was still a long ways to go. In my best run out of a full stream of grinding, I finished Lightning in 10th, which put my overall score just 16 points behind Black Bull. For the first time, I had a decent chance to win. The only issue is that I was completely out of retries and used my only one in Casino Palace. It was getting real sweaty in the final lap. I was hovering around the top 15 with White Cat and Black Bull nowhere to be found. But as I approached one of the final dash zones near the end of the track, I missed it by just a hair, and who else would run right through it but Black Bull. I finished in a disappointing 14th place, still securing a spot on the podium, but it just wasn't good enough to compete with my old challenge run partner. Needless to say, I was pretty bummed out, and my runs afterward were unsatisfactory and blocky. But as it usually goes for me, some rest and a clear head fixed me right up, and in my first race back, I started off strong.
All right, off to a great start here.
I know it may not seem like that much, but I hardly ever got anything above 10th place in Mute City. Those 81 points felt like a million after the previous day. I wasn't as fortunate in my first run in Casino Palace.
I bumped off of somebody.
But after coming out of retirement, I showed my competitors what Silver Rat can really do.
And that is how you play Silver Rat, you little bitch.
I didn't play anywhere near this level in Sand Ocean, but then again, I hardly ever did well in this track anyway. I got 11th place, which was decent for me, and it kept my first place lead going. But as I was going through Lightning, I got too eager to stay ahead, and blew through my boost too quickly in the final lap. With no retries left, I had to accept the nosedive and finished in 16th. That brought me all the way down to 4th place. I still wasn't out of this yet. One decent run in Aeropolis could finally get me out of here.
Damn it! 8 points?
Losing by a measly 8 points wasn't a great feeling, but the silver lining was that I was finally capable of winning. My next run, I was playing out of my mind, starting with 6th in Mute City, 3rd in Casino Palace, 11th in Sand Ocean, and after one death in Lightning, I placed 6th, and that left me only 6 points behind Death Anchor. I was now once again in a position where I couldn't afford to make any grave mistakes. Unfortunately, nerves were a factor, and in the final lap, I choked on a jump and got bullied into one of the slowdown hazards. Still, I managed to finish in 7th, but I didn't think that'd be high enough for a win.
Oh, I won! Yes! 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 Let's go! That's 1 cup down!
I was so surprised that I won, but reviewing it back, Death Anchor placed so low, and aside from Sonic Phantom, no one in the top 6 leaving Lightning did well in this race. The Ruby Cup was finally conquered, and there was still a long road ahead. But before we get into the next one, we have an interview with F-Zero TV.
F-Zero TV, who has brought you heated race after heated race, will now present an interview with the champion. Okay then, I'd like to ask you something.
I feel like when you win, this is like the first question.
What are your plans for the future?
To be an even better thief than my old man, and to keep on beating Falcon.
Thank you for the interview. And that's all for Adrenaline-Driven F-Zero TV.
Thanks for answering
That's
that
it,
question.
everyone.
Well, that was fast. Now I can access the Sapphire Cup, and of course it begins with another nostalgic area, Big Blue. Except this time, we don't have to race on cylinders, which is more than fine by me. But of course, there were still issues that I needed to overcome. While the track is almost completely flat, there's a small section near the end where you have to make fast turns. Hitting the walls here will pretty much keep you behind. The other pilots will also speed up and boost around this point when you enter the the tunnel, making it more dangerous for Silver Rat and leaving it open to attacks and fender benders. In my first finish, I placed 19th. Better than Mute City by far, but it clearly needed a lot of work. Another spot that I recognized was Port Town, and it was a lot easier to navigate through than what I can remember from X. In the second lap, I sped into first place at the cost of nearly all my boost power. That's where I found the catch in this race. Yeah, you can exhaust your boost and be in the lead for a little bit, but Silver Rat's top speed is just not quite enough to properly maintain a good distance from everyone else. With no pit until you reach the end of the track, you'll be hurting for a while if you don't conserve your boost. Then we have Green Plant, the Mobius Ring, and I ain't talking Sonic the Hedgehog lore. It's got the look of a basic oval track, but in actuality, it's a battle royale arena. There's 2 pits in this track, one halfway through and one by the finish line. If you don't line yourself up right, you'll miss getting through them. But even if you manage to get in the right position, you'll get bullied off of it by everyone else so fast that you won't even know what hit you. I got 18th here, but never fell below 20th, so this track held a bit of promise. For the 4th race, we enter Port Town again, this time racing through the long pipe. This track was probably my least favorite. The constant moving up, down, and all around was sickening for my eyes, and after you get past the motion sickness, they throw these pillars at you that you have to avoid near the end of the pipe. I was moving so fast around the hazards that I didn't know which way I needed to be, and that resulted in a first-class ticket out of bounds, which was unfortunately a round trip, because the same thing happened again after resetting. For the rest of my stream, I never made it past the long pipe, mostly because I just felt unsatisfied with my times in Drift Highway and Aerodive, but when I managed to make it to Mute City serial gaps, I was severely underprepared. Did you manage to see that? Probably not. In the moment, I couldn't even comprehend what happened. Slowing down the footage, it looks like I ran into some other machines after the jump, and merely touching them flung me off the track. I only raced for about 15 seconds before I was retired and headed back to Big Blue. This was only the start to my problems. Silver Rat is as light as a feather, and situations like this would happen well more than once.
Wow!
I hate this whole cup. That's what I get for trying to kill somebody.
Holy What happened? That happened so fast.
But while I could make it through most tracks in this cup, despite being tossed around like a rag doll, I struggled to get to the end of serial gaps. It was just way too fast-paced and hazard-heavy. The few attempts that I had when I made it this far ended in a crash or out-of-bounds situation, and didn't leave me with much confidence to make it through in a decent placement. Even after practicing a bit, my nerves still flared up when it was time to try again, which of course led up to a choke. But serial gaps was only one track. If I could manage to place better in the other 4 and beef up my points, I might be so far ahead to the point where I could just take it easy and still win. Of course, to create that moment, I'll need to practice more in the other tracks. And so I played and played and played some more. I mean, I went live for 6 to 8 hours on days I normally don't stream just because I was addicted to the grind. Improvements were much slower than in the Ruby Cup, but that's likely because most of my time was spent in Drift Highway. I know I mentioned using the practice mode to race through the tracks, and I definitely did, but that'll only help so much. You still need to race through with 29 other machines against you. Throughout a couple days, I spent over 15 hours toiling away at the Sapphire Cup, and while I gained experience and valuable knowledge during those sessions, I wasn't able to pull off a win. But I did come close a few times. Here's what I learned that helped me out the most. Addressing the elephant in the room first, I finally wised up and started using the side attack. I know I'm gonna catch some deserved heat for this one, and I honestly don't know why it never occurred to me to try out some of the other buttons. I guess I was just so used to the little tick that happens when you hit Z or R like an X. And when I tried doing that in GX and found that it wasn't the same, it just slipped my mind. But I eventually switched the controls so that it would activate with R to give me that X feel again. It also didn't help that I never painted Silver Rat as much of an aggressor, especially since it can get tossed around like a plastic bag in the wind. But when I got my first taste of side attack blood, I could feel the Black Bull raging inside of me, and I wanted more. Killed my own father in cold blood. I shouldn't have been playing like Silver Rat.
I should have been playing like Black Bull this whole time.
Aside from learning more about how to use the basic in-game controls, I actually sat down and watched some other Silver Rat runs in my off time. Now, this is something I normally try not to do because I enjoy keeping my playthroughs blind, but after over a half day's worth of minimal progress, sometimes you gotta take drastic measures. There aren't many, but if you search, you'll find a handful of players who have picked up Silver Rat and tried out Master for themselves, and their ways of using Silver Rat are fairly similar. For starters, the machine settings always maxed out top speed. Doing some Googling after noticing this, I guess it's just the best way to play. Silver Rat was also played very chaotically. Like in Drift Highway, I constantly saw its boost power used completely by the time the sharp turns were reached, and that always felt like such a risky move because one hit from a wall or anyone would blow up your machine. But it worked. This was also relevant in Mobius Ring. Silver Rat just boosts to Kingdom Come and the CPUs are way far behind. Seeing that was awesome and exactly how I wanted to play. But there was only one way I could do that. I gotta get good. It took a while, but I finally found my groove and had more consistency in every track. In Drift Highway, I went for easy kills in the beginning and sought out any more I could throughout the race. In the second lap, I saved a little bit of boost power and used it right before hitting the pit. From there, I tried to get my boost as full as possible and hit the last dash zone before the big jump. The third lap was about the same, but I didn't get as much boost power and tried to exhaust it all to reach the finish line. This process wasn't without its mishaps, but it worked most of the time and I was usually able to walk away in the top 10. I kept the aggression up an aero dive and tried to hit anyone I could in the first lap, while also making sure to not miss any dash zones. Then as soon as the second lap hit, I spammed boost until I was at about half my power. That helped create a sizable gap between me and second place. After going airborne and landing on the stair platforms, I used my boost so there was a little left over in case I got hit, and while avoiding other machines, I used the remainder right before getting to the pit, and rinsed and repeated this in the third lap. Mobius Ring was the easiest one to get first place in, but also the riskiest. When boosts are enabled, you basically have to immediately use all of it to get as far away from everyone as possible. If done correctly while also passing through all the dash zones, you should have clearance to get through the first pit with no interruptions. And from there, you can literally boost your way to the finish line with a huge lead. I say it's the riskiest because you literally cannot have anything slowing you down, and you have to leave each pit with near maximum boost. Because first place was almost guaranteed each time, I started to accept nothing less than the top 3, which ended up costing me a decent amount of retries. The long pipe was a tough one to get down. There's a ton of dash zones that you'll likely miss without playing through this track a good amount of times. Obviously, it's best to hit as many of them as you can, especially since there's only one pit at the end of the track. When it came time for the pillar hazards, I figured out where in the track I needed to be to line myself properly and not fall out of bounds, and then I boosted my way out to the exit. Now that brings me to serial gaps, now with a lead of 30 points. While I definitely had plenty of wiggle room here, I just couldn't hack this track at all. Serial gaps was my mortal enemy. You have to move quickly, and with the risk of falling out of bounds, I had a hard time trusting myself to let loose a little bit. Sad to say that while I had an amazing run, this would not be the one to progress me forward. My 24th place spot pushed me all the way down to 4th, which was a pretty big gut punch to say the least. But tomorrow is a new day, and who knows what may come along with it. Oh here we go again. Leaving the long pipe with a fair lead in first place, the only one who could contend with me was the mighty Typhoon, and if I could just take them out, or at least not place in the very bottom, this would all be over.
Might be enough. Yes! Yes! Finally! Get me out of this cup! Oh man, I think I broke my chair a little bit.
In another surprise turn of events, despite placing pretty low, I gathered enough points to keep my place at the top. I was overjoyed to finally move on, especially after spending over 15 hours trying to make it through. For reference, that's triple the time I spent in the Ruby Cup, and yet there is only more to come. But let's have a quick word with the champion.
Had any fun recently?
Have you had any fun lately?
I put a frog in my father's mouth while he was snoring.
I see.
Thank you for the interview.
Now for the Emerald Cup, and what better way to start it than with a big long cylinder that's not stuck in an M&M's tube with microwave mashed banana. Yet again, I was completely lost here. There's dash zones all around, and some that are hidden throughout the cylinder, but you'll never know where they all are without having a fair amount of experience in this track first. So this was a big loss for me. I was happy to escape the cylinder-like movements in Greenplant's intersection. Alas,
I already know that. Oh boy. More tubes.
I can't stand moving through these things, but at least they have 2 pits and some dash zones. When you get out of there, there's a short straightaway where you can crisscross around these tubes to hit more dash zones. And right when you're flying, the track turns a bit, which can launch you out of bounds. I did this again on my next run through, but that was because I had pretty much already given up and knew that I should continue to learn from my mistakes and get back to the practice mode. I started by running through some laps in Casino Palace's double branches. This track will occasionally split, and each path offers something different. The right path in the beginning will give you a lengthy pit, so I tended to go there. This also meant that I could boost for most of the race, since there's other pits throughout the track as well. You do have to mind your speed though. After that, I got some practice in at the cylinder knot and intersection, then skipped the half pipe for some reason, and continued my training with Big Blue's Ordeal. The track definitely lived up to its name. I was getting Serial Gaps vibes all over again, except Ordeal at least has some guardrails and less open sections that beg for disaster, though I could already tell that this section was going to be a problem for me.
I imagine I'm gonna die on that jump quite a few times.
Speaking of open sections, my training concluded with half pipe, and it's exactly as you'd expect it to be. The half pipe really wasn't all that bad, though it needed some slick movements here and there. It's also got some nice straightaways and lasers to avoid near the end. After I finished my practice sessions, I took the rest of the night off, and started the Emerald Cup refreshed and ready the next day.
Last place, dude. Crazy.
Well, maybe not quite ready yet. The tracks change, but Silver Rat stays the same. After getting past the first 2 tracks, I had my bout with double branches, and for my first time, I was actually doing quite well in a race against others. I did end up quitting out of this playthrough because I wanted to change my controller settings again, but it was a hopeful sign, although my return was not the most welcome one.
What happened? What did I do?
At first, I was going to give you all another no idea what happened moment, but slowing this down frame by frame, you can see that another machine hit me at Mach speeds. Just the typical Silver Rat shenanigans. I floundered a bit after resetting, but left the track again with confidence that this race would be an easy first place. It took a little bit to get back there because reasons.
I touched him. That's fair. I was supposed to slow down around that point.
But when I did, I was killing them, both in the race and in cold blood. The only reason I didn't place first was because I missed some dash zones in the final lap, and couldn't risk using any more of my boost power. This landed me in 4th, which I was content with at the time. Half pipe wasn't half bad, despite nearly flipping out of the track.
That was fun.
I pulled off 15th place, and this put me in 9th overall going into Ordeal. I pretty much had no chance of a win, but at least I could play it through and see what happens.
Anything is possible if you believe. That was a strategy.
Shortly after almost dying from my own attack, I met with a grim fate, right near that spot that I knew was going to be an issue. I made it through all 3 laps on my next try, but would be slaughtered by another pilot right before I had the chance to enter the pit. And thus begins another long session of the Silver Rat grind. But this one would be a bit different than the others. Naturally, I'd find more ways to get ahead in the tracks, like hitting most of the dash zones, and saving my boost until the very end in cylinder knot, or by speeding religiously in intersection, and knowing when to slow down so I don't fly into oblivion. But as I continue to make progress and get better, I'd have 2 unspoken rivals that would constantly be after me. Those are Dr. Stewart and the Golden Fox, and none other than Black Shadow himself with the Black Bowl. I don't know what the deal was with these 2, but anytime they took the lead, they took it far. Every time I thought I had things under control and in the bag, there was one of them in first place, thwarting my plans. It's pretty crazy how it was consistently just these 2, and I made it my life's mission to annihilate them any chance I got.
No, I got too greedy.
Something I discovered while doing this is that Black Bull will almost never survive in double branches. No clue what was up with that, but it was a welcomed blessing. These two still made things very frustrating. So many runs were lost because of them, but I just couldn't cast all the blame on them. I was still a bit rusty in some areas too. As the hours went by, I'd improve more and more, but anytime I reached Big Blue, I played like complete dog shit, and that was all because of nervousness again. I mean, my hands were hella sweaty by the time I reached the end with a potential win situation. I just couldn't help it, but I was still taking runs to the final race, sometimes leading in the standings too. Everything was there, I just had to get over my nerves. And maybe don an Adidas hoodie. I cleared Cylinder Knot in 10th place. An acceptable start for me, but of course Black Bull and Golden Fox were ahead in 1st and 4th. What they didn't know was that I slaughtered 5 other machines in that race, and I was coming for them. I couldn't deliver the Silver Rat hands in intersection, but I did place higher than both of them, putting me in the top 5. And when double branches loaded, I wasted no time.
Killed him.
But revenge would be taken on me by Red Gazelle, who was my rival at the time. I came back from that with 5 more kills and a nice first place finish. This put me just shy in first place by 3 points, but the next track was Half Pipe, and it was never one that I got down quite well. Guess I should have heeded this old comment's warning. Exiting the race, I placed 13th, and of course, Black Bull was in 2nd. Somehow, this didn't completely ruin my chances. Knocking out Black Bull and Golden Fox in the last race would give me a significant advantage, or I could just take out most of the competition and win that way.
Yes! Finally! Get me the f out of here! Yes!
I have no idea what came over me, but I turned Silver Rat into a killing machine. I didn't even take out Golden Fox or Black Bull. Thank heavens they weren't anywhere near me, for their sake too. Time to say goodbye to the Emerald Cup and hello to F-Zero Television.
I think we need to do Father and Treasure left.
Do you have something you treasure?
The Samurai Goro plastic figure. I just got it.
I really like that there's
TV.
no regular
That's it,
pose for
everyone.
these guys,
We'll
just
see you
like
at the next
this Samurai
Grand Prix.
Goro figure.
The beginning of the end can now commence with the Diamond Cup, starting off at the Cosmo Terminal with Trident. This track is a bare bones, full-on boost fest, and it's also completely open, so, you know.
I can tell this is going to be one I'm going to fall off of a lot. Wow, what'd I tell you?
It's actually not as bad as it seems. You just gotta mind your business sometimes. But seriously, you gotta always be boosting on this one. I got 2nd place in my first completed run, only behind Fat Shark, piloted by Don Genie, who, if you forgot, is one of the best in the game. He'll be taking Dr. Stewart's place in this cup. Back to Sandoshan with Lateral Shift. The track starts off normal and then tricks you with a bait and switch. Okay, or maybe the arrows there actually meant something. In the tunnel, there's more hazardous arrows and a large pit section. When you get out of there, the track starts to get more narrow, which can be kinda scary for our little machine. I got a couple of kills here, but ended up in 26th. This still kept me in the top 8 thanks to that sweet 2nd place finish earlier. From the sands, it's another return to the fire field and undulation. This track is really bumpy all around, and you gotta watch out for these signs.
Did not like that.
There's not much more to it other than go fast and don't die. I almost blew up after using all of my boost power in the 2nd lap, but instead of letting that happen, I had a different idea.
Don't worry, I have a plan. I did not mean to do that. Holy shit.
Don't even ask. I don't know how I did it. I just punched it as soon as I got a little boost power back. Also, those 2 kills on 3rd and 2nd place? Holy moly, who was this man? That stunt put me all the way to 1st place, but barely. Hey, who knows? Maybe this will be the run. Unless the Dragon Slopes have something to say about that. And boy, did they. I came into this with a lot more confidence than I should have, and all of it withered away the moment I had to do these drops. My in-air knowledge was limited, and I knew that I at least had to align myself with the track when I landed so I wouldn't lose speed, but sometimes I'd fumble. This was enough to hold me back throughout the whole race, and I knew immediately that I'd be hitting some practice after this. I still pushed through so I could get some time in at Phantom Road's slimline slits. This has to have some kind of Rainbow Road influence. They weren't kidding with the slim lines. You gotta be very careful when moving through this one. I gave it a half-assed try, and ended up in the wired abyss after trying to replenish my boost. All in all though, if I spend a little extra time in here and in the Dragon Slopes, this cup might be in the bag sooner than later. Time to begin the 4th training arc of this challenge run. You'd think I'd have learned everything there is to know by now, but it mostly just came down to practice, practice, practice. Dragon Slopes was definitely my worst. I was diving too far down and not aligning myself properly when I landed, but there was a few fixes. Outside of alignment, if you let go of acceleration while in the air, or at least a little before you land, you'll lose less speed. Saving some boost power for right when you land can also keep you from slowing down too much too. Aside from learning how to stick a landing, the rest of my time was spent racing through each track in and out of practice mode. The easiest one of them all was Trident. I could get 1st place in this track 90% of the time. All you have to do is spam your boost and not miss any pit areas. Do it right and you'll pretty much be boosting the entire race. It's also one of the best tracks to rack up a decent kill count, but your main targets will typically be Black Bull and Fat Shark. Black Bull will hover around the top 5, but Fat Shark will stay consistently in 1st place, unless you can manage to pass or kill him. Lateral Shift wasn't too bad of a track, but it had a lot of open areas and pile-up moments, which Silverrat hates.
Oh, I think my rival kicked the bucket. And so did I! Woo, baby! Somebody stop me. Don't actually. Damn it! Damn.
This led me to playing the race a little more on the safe side, which was not the way to go. Lateral Shift would be another race where you want to boost as much as you can and keep away from everyone else. This would also be the same for Undulation. You can, but you don't need to worry about everyone else in the race. Just focus on speed, and they'll drop like flies on their own. Slimline Slits was difficult to get through, partially because it was designed to be hard, and it had the added pressure of being the last track. The narrow paths will cause death and destruction. You gotta play fast, risky, and smart. I never quite made it through to the end often, but when I did, I sought out my enemies so that I may have a fighting chance, but it usually ended as you would expect. Many more attempts were had in the Diamond Cup over the next couple days, and a bunch of internet issues to boot. I won't get into those details, but it definitely put a big halt on my progression. There were a few close calls here and there, but on my best run, I made it all the way to the end with a 1st place lead by 18 points. This was due to placing 1st in Trident and 2nd in Undulation, and even though I got 12th in Dragon Slopes, I destroyed enough machines to get a gold skull, which is 10 kills for those wondering. That heavily brought down the competition, and I had 2 extra tries to get things right. On my 1st attempt, I fell too far behind and had to reset, and on my 2nd, I was giving it my best, and didn't really pay too much attention to the fact that one of the few contenders, aka my rival, was in 1st place and pretty much stayed there. I was so used to Black Bull or Fat Shark being in the front that I paid no mind to Queen Meteor, who was never a problem.
With Black Bull dead, I guess you never know. Damn it, dude!
That did not end well for me, and I had a whole extra reset I could have used. Oh well, 2nd place was still fairly solid, and another good reminder that all my hard work was paying off. A few hours later, I got 1st in Trident as I normally did, though it was a bit of a unique finish.
Ooh, I got him anyway, right before we crossed the finish line. He's still finished though. That's hilarious. That counts for the CPUs too.
Right after that, I got another 1st place spot in Lateral Shift, something I was definitely not used to.
Ooh, baby.
I was hoping to continue the streak at Undulation, but settled for 4th place. Dragon Slopes was still a bad track for me, and I reset before finishing in 25th. This meant that I was completely out of retries, and unless I could get some more kills, this was it. 22nd. That was painful. I don't know why I struggle in this track so much, but despite this poor placement, I was still hanging on to the lead, and looky who was right behind me. Still without any retries, all I could do was try my best.
Well, the other guys placed pretty low, so I don't know. That might have been it. Yes! That's how we do it. Yes! We place low and hope for the best.
This was actually one of the most insane wins I've ever had. 2 back-to-back 22nd placements, which is pretty awful. Yet I still pulled out a win and got crazy luck with Fat Shark being disqualified. My faith in this run was really low, but I guess it's like what I said. Place low and hope for the best, which really doesn't make much sense. Good thing that doesn't matter. Take it away, F-Zero reporter.
Tell us about your father.
Can you tell us about your father?
He's fat and he snores, but he's so good at what he does. He's the greatest.
He's fat. Thank you for the interview.
All that was left now was the AX Cup. This cup features tracks from the F-Zero arcade cabinet, which is also named AX. I could build this cup up for you all, but you're likely seeing that the video is about to end, so I'll be quick. The AX Cup is the easiest one out of them all, and I'm not just saying that because of how much I improved since day one, though I'm sure that had a little bit to do with it. But these tracks, for whatever reason, are super easy to get through. When I won, I was over 80 points in the lead. It was an absolute stomp, and a perfect way to say that you can beat every cup in F-Zero GX only using Silver Rat. Now for one final question.
You know what? I'm doing it.
May I have your autograph, champ?
Autograph? I feel like a celebrity.
I'd like to present this autograph to one lucky viewer on F-Zero TV. Here's the address.
Thank you all so much for watching, and an even bigger thanks for your patience with me while I worked on this video. The Silver Rat run is up there as one of the hardest challenges I've ever done. It's just way too damn slow in a game where you gotta be way too damn fast. The handling at least made things more tolerable, and the boost was alright, but I was not in love with its speed, or being everyone else's punching bag. I know I talked about nervousness a bit throughout this video, and it's something I feel like I don't share enough. Sometimes doing challenge runs can cause some stress, and that will very easily affect performance. That said, a lot of the challenge did just stem from not being very knowledgeable on GX itself. Now that doesn't mean Silver Rat doesn't suck, it definitely does. But I'm positive that speedrunners and veteran GX players would have had a much easier time with this one. My typical runs are just grab the controller and go, and that was not the move for this game. You gotta take your time to properly learn the game and every track in it. Even though I created more trouble for myself than needed, this run was insanely fun. GX made me fall in love with F-Zero all over again. Uncovering the best ways to race in each track and progressing from last place finishes to first gave me an insane high and a need for more. I would love to return to GX and maybe try out another low tier machine or a custom one. If that's something you'd like to see, please be sure to leave a comment with your suggestion. I'd love to hear them. Until then, thanks for the hours of fun and stress, Silver Rat. You may finally rest. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Also, I stream all of my challenge runs live on my Twitch channel and here on YouTube. If you'd like to check that out, be sure to subscribe or follow me on Twitch. The link to my Twitch channel, along with links to my other social media accounts, can be found in the description. If there's a challenge run you'd like to see, you can also check out the description for a direct link where you can submit your ideas. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you in the next video.
What the What happened? What even was that?